Hi folks, my name's Andy Robertson. I am a church planter with the Free Church of Scotland, leading a church plant in an area called Charleston, which is a part of the city of Dundee. For those of you that don't know, Dundee is the fourth largest city in Scotland, and I want to talk about, just very briefly, what it is that we are doing in Charleston and why I'm here, why I'm looking for support from you guys. Craig mentioned that 48% of the population of Scotland live in areas called housing schemes. A housing scheme would be like a cross between a housing project, a trailer park, and an Indian reservation. I think that's maybe the best way to see it. What happened historically in Scotland is large cities had many industries such as shipbuilding, factory work, and what they did to try and cater for those working in those industries was put them in schemes in these communities. However, when those industries shut down, what you started to see in the schemes was that they became areas of mass unemployment. And with mass unemployment comes all sorts of social issues, mental health issues, family breakdown, violence, and drug and alcohol addiction would be some of the most prevalent things. In fact, Scotland is one of the worst countries in the world for drug deaths. Dundee, where we are planting, is famously known as Europe's drug death capital. We have more drug deaths per capita than any other city in Europe. But as Craig said, almost half the population live in these communities. And yet if we were to survey the evangelical landscape of Scotland, small as it is, what you would see is that predominantly the churches in Scotland are middle class, the evangelical churches. And these areas have very little, often no, gospel witness. So Charleston in Dundee is one of many housing schemes in the city. In 2017, we moved there to begin the work of starting a church. We started with a launch team of only 10 people. And the main reason for that is if you went into an area like Charleston with a large group of people that were not from Charleston, say like 30 or 50, almost certainly you would never reach that community because they would just view it as some kind of, middle-class cult. So we started with a small group with the intention of living in the scheme and becoming part of the scheme and getting to know the scheme. Essential to our strategy from the very beginning was you had to live there. You had to be part of this community, share life with people in this community. And so that's what we did. We moved there. We've been there for 8 years. Our vision as a church, we love the scheme. We love the people. We want to reach the people in Charleston with the good news of Jesus. But we're part of a mission that wants to go beyond Charleston. It's for all nations. So we want to proclaim the good news to all, and we want to live out that good news together. One of the things that's difficult in church planting in Scotland, I think maybe now across the board, particularly in housing schemes, is finding buildings. We are struggling to find areas like that in communities like Charleston. So what we did early on was, you can see at the top left there, we got this building from the council, we lease it off them. That was the old post office in Charleston, and we've renovated it. There it is now today at the bottom right. We use that as a kind of hub to reach people. And early on, when we were there, that was kind of the focal point for the work that we were doing in this community. We try and connect with many different kinds of people in the community. There's just some pictures of some of the events that we have run over the year. All these people who are at this, have come often to the events that we run, not through a flyer, but through the connections that we've built up personally with them. Down on the bottom left, this was our holiday club that we ran in Charleston. Bottom right is our drop-in cafe. Top right is some work that we do with some of the senior citizens as well. And so when we started 2017, we just really wanted to get part of this community, get integrated into this community, and think about how we could reach the different people groups within this community. And I wanted to show you a picture of our first meeting as a church plant. So this was us in 2017. None of us are actually from Charleston. We all moved in there and this was our first church plant meeting. Now, most of the people who are in that photo, who were there at the very beginning, have moved on, so they're not there anymore. But this is a photo that I took just relatively recently, from a few Sundays ago, and that is the church today. And today, what you'll see is that the vast majority of our church are people who are actually from Charleston. That's what we wanted to do, to build up a group of indigenous believers, because the most effective people in reaching the schemes will be guys from the schemes. And so it's been really encouraging to see how God has done that. But let me tell you, it's not been easy. Church planting, our church has a lot of non-Christians and new Christians, and often they come with a lot of baggage, given the nature of the area that we are in. Church planting in a scheme is a slow burn. It's a slow burn. Our growth strategy is growth through conversion. We are not attracting Christians. It's very hard to get Christians who want to come to Dundee as a whole. It's even harder to get them to come to a housing scheme in Dundee. In fact, we had a team of Americans over in the summer who were helping out with our holiday club. They got off the train station, went to the taxi and said, "Can you take us to Charleston?" And the taxi driver said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Yes." And he said to them, "You don't want to go there." And that's very much the mentality that we see. And sadly, I think it's maybe a mentality that has kind of made its way into the churches as well. You don't want to go to these places. And yet people in communities like Charleston will never leave. They're generations of family. They're not going to come into the town centre to go to a church that is irrelevant to them. And so that is why we have gone there and started planting a church. It's not something you can microwave. It's something that's going to take a long time and involves a lot of investment in people. It has often been quite challenging. There's much brokenness. In fact, if it wasn't for Jesus and his parable of the sower, I think I would have quit. But thankfully, Jesus set our expectations by telling us to expect a 75% rejection. 3 of the 4 soils will hear and will reject the gospel. But it's the one who takes the seed, who produces a harvest. And we've been really encouraged to see more than just one do that. I'm going to just tell you 2 stories, and then I want to talk about why it is I'm pitching this to you. Let me tell you a story about a lady called Anne. She came right near the start of when we started the church plant. She's in her 60s. She used to work in a bookies, which is a betting shop. I don't know if you have bookies in America. It's like a betting shop. And so it basically means that she's hard as nails if she worked in a bookies. She came to the church and she asked, "Is this a place where I can learn about the Bible?" She then started studying the Bible. She became a Christian. And then she started inviting everyone she knew to come along to this new church plant that was happening in Charleston. And through her, we actually started a ministry to the over 60s called the Seniors Lunch Club that meets every month. We play a game of bingo. It's not gambling. You win a copy of, I think, Gentle and Lowly if you get a full house. And we have around 35 locals that come to that. They come, they eat, they play bingo, and I do a little Bible talk. We've had 5 people come to faith through that ministry, all because Anne heard the gospel and brought them in and witnessed to them. We tell you about another lad in our community called Billy. Billy was a local weed dealer. He used to come in and out the church at our drop-in cafe, often to, mock and insult what we were doing. But we built up a friendship with him. He came eventually to an addiction support group that we ran. And we've been running from the early days. We've had around 50 guys from the community come to this. He got saved. 2 years ago, Billy became a member of the church. He was baptized as an infant, but he became a member in our church. His nickname in the community was Billy the Weed. Now his nickname is Billy the Bible Basher. He is now looking at doing an internship with us in the church. And God willing, that will happen next year. And that's what we want to see, is reaching people, but also training the next generation of leaders from people who are from this kind of community, who are from this background. There's many more stories I could talk about. We could do a 2-hour presentation on this. I can mention the young girl who is living with us now full-time after being brought up out of a chaotic home of addiction. I could mention the bouncer from a strip club in the town who has just started coming to church. The first sermon he came to was on Genesis 17, the covenant and circumcision. So straight into the deep end. He's wanting to study the Bible. I could mention the teenagers who have started studying the Bible with Rachel, one of the women who is working for the church. I could mention 3 who are hoping to get baptized in the next few weeks. One's a New Age hippie, one has come out of an addiction background, and one is a student studying up at the hospital. And these are encouraging, and it's the encouragement that comes amidst much difficulty. Evangelism in an area like Charleston is easy. They've never heard the gospel. I sat down with a guy who was in his 50s. He's well known for all the wrong reasons. We were reading Luke 18, and the comment he said, similar to what Ben was saying, was, I have never heard this before. These guys have never heard the gospel. Evangelism is easy. They're up for it. What's hard for us is discipleship. Walking with them in obedience in Christ. That's where we have found it most difficult. But I want to close by stating why I'm here speaking to you all. We've been going 8 years. But for us, this is a hard ministry to fund given our context. Let me just show you from last year. Our expenditure was £111,491. It's on the sheet there, but I think there's a typo. It says the total is 90,000. You kind of want to score that out. It's 111,000 was our expenditure. And our income last year was 98,000. Most of that is from external giving. But what you see is we have been so generously supported that often churches will give 3-year commitments, 5-year commitments, or just 1-year commitments. And so we're constantly having to keep raising funds. 15,500 comes from internal giving. Now you might be thinking, we've got about 50 coming on a Sunday. You might be thinking, that's not a lot. Let me tell you, most of the guys who come to our church are unemployed or on low-income jobs. Billy, for the first time in his life, has got a job. Here's the twisted thing. He earned more money taking his benefits and being unemployed than he has done being employed. He has taken a serious financial hit becoming a Christian and working. We have a system that is designed to keep people out of work rather than encouraging them to work. And so a lot of folks in our church, they do give, and I'm encouraged by it, but many of them, it's widow's mites. And that's the nature of church planting in an area like Charleston. And I think that's what we are just coming to terms with as a denomination. That actually we cannot be financially self-sustaining in this context. God willing, we might get a doctor or something that's willing to come and live in the schemes. But if we are reaching the indigenous population there, it is going to be very difficult to be financially self-sustaining. And so we had a £12,000 deficit. This year it's probably going to be double that. We're encouraging our guys to keep giving, but we want to ask for money for at least £10,000 from the UK partnership. But genuinely, here's my big request. Please pray that God would send some mature Christians to us. We need Christians in this church plant, in this community. That's the big thing that I would ask you to pray for us in Charleston. Thank you for your time.